The water was ankle deep when I opened my apartment door that Tuesday night, and my first thought wasn't about the damage or the mess. It was about the emergency fund. My name is Sophia, and I've been the responsible one in my family for as long as I can remember. While my younger brother Carter was out partying through college and beyond, I was the one sending $500 every month to what my parents called our family emergency fund. 10 years of faithfully transferring money from my corporate salary, because that's what good daughters do, right? Jesus Christ, I whispered, stepping into the flooded hallway. The burst pipe above had turned my carefully organised life into a soggy disaster. My laptop bag went straight onto the kitchen counter, the one dry surface I could find, and I started taking pictures for insurance. The water damage was extensive. My hardwood floors were warped beyond repair, the drywall was soaked through, and my furniture looked like it had been through a hurricane. The smell of mould was already starting to creep in. I called my landlord first. "Sophia, I'm so sorry," Mrs. Patterson said, when she arrived an hour later. "The unit above you had a major pipe failure. We're looking at least 6 weeks for repairs, maybe 8. 6 weeks? My voice cracked. Where am I supposed to live? I'll work with you on temporary housing costs, but honestly, you'll need to find somewhere else to stay. This place isn't habitable." After she left, I sat on my kitchen counter, literally the only clean, dry spot in my apartment, and stared at the destruction. My carefully curated life, my organised space, everything I'd worked for was ruined. But that's what the emergency fund was for, right? 10 years of contributions. My parents had always praised me for being so responsible, so forward-thinking. "You're the glue that holds this family together," Mum would say whenever I sent another deposit. I grabbed my phone and called home. "Sophia, darling," Mum's voice was bright, but there was something underneath it that I couldn't quite place. "How are you, sweetheart?" "Mum, I need help. My apartment flooded tonight. The whole place is destroyed and I can't live here for at least 6 weeks. I need to access the emergency fund." Silence. "Mum?" "Well, honey, that's unfortunate about your apartment." "Unfortunate?" I looked around at my waterlogged life and felt something cold settle in my stomach. "I need to find temporary housing," I continued. "Hotels are expensive, and I'll need to replace some furniture and, Sophia dear, I'm not sure this qualifies as a real emergency." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Not a real emergency? Mum, I'm literally homeless right now." "You're being dramatic. You have friends, don't you? Can't you stay with someone? And honestly, sweetheart, you should have renter's insurance for situations like this." I did have renter's insurance, but it wouldn't cover temporary housing costs, and she knew that. We'd talked about it before. "I've been paying into that fund for 10 years, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "This is exactly what it's for." "Well, we'll need to discuss it as a family. Your father and I can't just make unilateral decisions about family money." Family money. Money that was 90% mine. "Let me talk to Dad." "He's not available right now. Look, Sophia, I'm sure you'll figure something out. You always do. You're so capable." Before I could respond, I heard Carter's voice in the background. "Is that Sophia? Tell her I said hi." "Carter says hello," Mum relayed, and I could hear the warmth in her voice that had been completely absent when she was talking to me. "Mum, I have to go, dear. We'll talk soon." The line went dead. I sat there in my destroyed apartment, phone in hand, trying to process what had just happened. My mother, the woman who'd spent years telling me how proud she was of my responsibility, had just dismissed my actual emergency as not real. My phone buzzed with a text from Carter. "Heard about your little flood situation. Maybe next time invest in better insurance instead of being so cheap." I stared at the message until the words blurred. There was something in his tone, something that suggested he knew more than he was letting on. I grabbed my overnight bag and started throwing clothes into it. Whatever was happening here, whatever game my family was playing, I needed space to think. But first, I needed to call Blair. Blair answered on the second ring. "Sophia, it's almost midnight. What's wrong?" "My apartment flooded. Everything's ruined and I need somewhere to crash tonight." "Oh my God, yes, of course. Come over right now. Do you need me to pick you up?" "No, I can drive. Blair, there's more. I called my parents about the emergency fund and we'll talk when you get here. Just drive safe." 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Blair's kitchen while she made tea, my overnight bag dripping on her floor. "Okay, start from the beginning," she said, setting a mug in front of me. I told her everything. The flood, the call with Mom, Carter's text. Blair's expression grew darker with each detail. "She said it wasn't a real emergency." Blair's voice was sharp. "You're literally homeless." "That's what I said, but she acted like I was being dramatic." "And your dad?" "Conveniently unavailable." I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. "Blair, something's off. The way she talked to me, like she was annoyed I even called, and Carter's text." "What exactly did he say?" I showed her the message. Blair read it twice, her jaw tightening. "He's such a little shit," she muttered. "But Sophia, there's something I need to tell you." My stomach dropped. "What?" Blair sat down across from me, fidgeting with her tea bag. "Last month at your cousin's wedding, I was in the bathroom when your mum came in with your Aunt Desiree. They were talking about money, and I heard your mum mention something about a fund for Carter." "What kind of fund?" "I don't know exactly, but your mum said something like, 'He's going to be so surprised, and he's earned it.' I thought maybe it was a separate thing, but now—" The room felt like it was spinning. "You think they're talking about my emergency fund?" "I don't know. Maybe I misheard. But the timing is weird, right? You have a real emergency and suddenly the fund isn't available." I pulled out my phone and called home again. This time, Dad answered. "Sophia, it's very late." "Dad, I need to talk to you about the emergency fund. My apartment is completely flooded. I can't live there for weeks." "Yes, your mother mentioned that. I'm sorry about your situation." "My situation? Dad, this is exactly what we created that fund for. I've been contributing to it for 10 years. "Well, honey, these things are complicated. We can't just—" "What's complicated about it? I have an emergency. I need emergency money." I heard Mum's voice in the background. "William, tell her we'll discuss it tomorrow." "Your mother says we'll discuss it tomorrow." "I need somewhere to live tonight, Dad, and tomorrow, and for the next 6 weeks." "You're a smart girl, Sophia. You'll figure something out." The line went dead again. "Unbelievable," I said, staring at my phone. "He just hung up on me." Blair reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You can stay here as long as you need. But Sophia, I think you need to find out what's really going on with that fund." Before I could respond, my phone rang. Carter. Should I answer it? "Put it on speaker," Blair said. "Hey, sis." Carter's voice was cheerful, almost mocking. "Heard you had a little water problem." "A little water problem? Carter, my entire apartment is destroyed." "Yeah, that sucks. But hey, maybe this is a good opportunity for you to finally move somewhere nicer. You've been in that dump for years." "That dump was my home, and I can't afford somewhere nicer because I've been sending money to the family fund every month." Carter laughed. "Oh, that old thing? Yeah, Mum and Dad have been talking about that lately." My blood went cold. "What do you mean?" "Nothing specific, just family financial planning stuff. You know how they are." "Carter, I need access to that fund. This is a real emergency." "I'm sure Mum and Dad will work something out. They always do what's best for the family." There was something in his tone, smug, knowing, like he was enjoying this. "What aren't you telling me?" I asked. "Nothing. God, you're so paranoid. Look, I gotta go. Good luck with your flood situation." He hung up. Blair and I stared at each other across the table. "He knows something," I said. "Yeah, he definitely knows something. The question is what?" I thought about the wedding, about Mom and Desiree's conversation, about Carter's smirk when he talked about the fund. "Blair, I need to see the paperwork for that account. I need to know exactly what's going on." "How are you going to do that?" "I still have copies of everything at my office, all the deposit records, the original account set up. If something's changed, I'll be able to tell." Blair nodded slowly. "And if you find out they're planning to give your money to Carter?" I met her eyes. "Then we'll figure out what to do about it." The next evening, I was at my parents' house for what Mum called a family dinner to discuss your situation. I'd spent the day at work pulling every document I had related to the emergency fund, and what I'd found made my hands shake. I was still listed as the primary account holder. "Sophia, darling, you look tired," Mum said as she set down a casserole dish. "Are you sleeping well at Blair's?" "I'm fine." I took my usual seat at the dinner table, the same spot I'd occupied for 28 years. "Can we talk about the fund now?" "Let's eat first," Dad said, not making eye contact. Carter strolled in 15 minutes late, hair still damp from a shower. "Sorry, lost track of time at the gym." "No problem, sweetheart," Mum said, immediately fixing him a plate. "I kept everything warm for you." I watched her fuss over him the same way she had our entire lives. Carter got the biggest portions, the best pieces, the warmest smiles. "So," Carter said, settling into his chair, "how's the homeless life treating you, sis?" "Carter," Dad warned, but his tone was mild. "What? I'm just asking. It's been, 2 days now?" "I'm staying with Blair," I said evenly, "but I need a more permanent solution, which is why we're here." Mum cleared her throat. "Sophia, your father and I have been discussing your situation, and we think the best approach is for you to handle this independently." "Independently?" "You're 28 years old," she continued. "You have a good job savings. This is an opportunity for you to prove you can handle adult responsibilities without running to your parents." I set down my fork. "I've been handling adult responsibilities since I was 18, including contributing to a family emergency fund for 10 years. "Yes, and we appreciate that," Dad said. "But the fund is meant for true emergencies." "What would qualify as a true emergency?" My voice was getting louder. "What could possibly be more of an emergency than losing your home?" Carter snorted. "Come on, Sophia, you're being dramatic. It's just an apartment." "Just an apartment?" I turned to face him. "Where exactly do you think I should live?" "I don't know. Figure it out. Get a hotel, find a sublet, ask one of your friends. Normal people don't go running to Mommy and Daddy every time something goes wrong." The hypocrisy was staggering. Carter had been living in our parents' basement on and off for 3 years, rent-free. "Normal people also don't live in their parents' basement at 25, I shot back. "That's different," Mum said quickly. "Carter is saving money for his future." "What future? He doesn't even have a job." "I'm between opportunities," Carter said, "and at least I'm not begging for handouts." "Handouts?" I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. "I've put $50,000 into that fund. 50,000. That's not a handout, that's my money." "It's family money," Mum corrected, "and we need to be thoughtful about how it's used." "Thoughtful? I'm homeless." "You're staying with a friend," Dad said. "That's hardly homeless." I looked around the table at their faces, Mum's tight-lipped disapproval, Dad's uncomfortable avoidance, Carter's smirk. These people were strangers. "I need some air," I said, and walked out to the back porch. Through the sliding glass door, I could hear them talking in low voices. I pressed myself against the wall and listened. "She's being completely unreasonable," Mum was saying, "acting like we owe her something." "Well, she has been contributing to the fund," Dad said weakly. "We all have," Mum snapped. "This is exactly why we need to make the transfer soon, before she gets any more demanding." Transfer? Dad's voice was confused. William, we discussed this. Carter's been so patient and he's finally ready to take that next step. The car will give him the independence he needs to find a real job. My blood turned to ice. I still think we should tell Sophia, Dad said. Tell her what? That we're finally doing something nice for her brother? She'll just find a way to make it about herself, like she always does. But it's mostly her money in there, Dad protested. It's family money, Mum repeated firmly. And Carter is family too. He deserves this chance. Carter's voice joined the conversation. Besides, Sophia makes good money. She can handle her own problems. I actually need this. Exactly, Mum said. Sophia has always been so capable. She'll figure out her housing situation, but Carter needs our support right now. When are we doing it? Carter asked. Next week. I already talked to the bank about the transfer process. It'll be a nice surprise for you, sweetheart. I stood there on the porch, my entire world crashing down around me. 10 years of sacrifice, 10 years of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who could handle anything. And they were going to give it all to Carter for a car. I walked back inside, grabbed my purse, and headed for the door. Sophia, where are you going? Mum called. We haven't finished discussing your situation. There's nothing to discuss, I said, without turning around. You've made your decision. What's that supposed to mean? I looked back at her, this woman who'd raised me, who'd told me she was proud of my responsibility, who'd just spent the last 10 minutes planning to give away my life savings to my unemployed brother. It means I heard everything. The colour drained from her face. Sophia, wait! But I was already out the door. I drove straight to Blair's apartment, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside. What happened? They're giving it all to Carter. For a car. The words tumbled out as I collapsed onto her couch. I heard them planning it. Next week, a surprise for their precious golden boy. Blair sat down beside me. Are you sure that's what you heard? Mum said Carter deserves this chance, that I'm capable and can handle my own problems. $50,000, Blair, for a fucking car. Jesus Christ. Blair got up and started pacing. So while you're sleeping on my couch because your apartment is destroyed, they're planning to give your money to Carter so he can drive around in style. Pretty much. My phone started ringing. Mum. Don't answer it, Blair said. It went to voicemail, then immediately started ringing again. She's persistent, I muttered, declining the call. A text came through. Sophia, we need to talk. You misunderstood what you heard. Then another. Please come back. We can work this out. And another. You're being childish. Childish, I read aloud. I'm being childish. Blair grabbed the phone from my hands. Stop reading them. You'll just get more upset. I need to see the account documents again. I stood up and headed for my bag. There has to be something I can do. I spread the papers across Blair's dining table, 10 years of deposit slips, account statements, the original paperwork from when I'd set up the fund. Look at this, I said, pointing to the signature page. I'm listed as the primary account holder. My parents are secondary. Blair leaned over my shoulder. What does that mean exactly? It means I have full access to the account. I set it up this way because I was contributing the most money and I wanted to be able to track the deposits. So you can withdraw money without their permission? Technically, yes. But Blair, I can't just steal from my own family. Steal! Blair's voice was sharp. Sophia, it's your money. You put in $50,000. How much did they contribute? I flipped through the statements. Dad put in maybe $3,000 over the years. Mum contributed nothing directly. She always said her contribution was managing the household. So 94% of that money is yours. But it's supposed to be for family emergencies. And you have a family emergency. You're homeless. But instead of helping you, they're planning to buy Carter a car. Blair sat down across from me. Sophia, when was the last time your parents actually supported you? I thought about it. I don't know. College maybe. But even then, Carter got more help with his tuition. And when Carter needed money for his failed business venture 2 years ago, they gave him $5,000 from their personal savings. When he crashed his car last year, they paid for the repairs and his insurance deductible. When he wanted to take that expensive photography course, they covered it. I was starting to see her point. And when you needed help with your security deposit for your apartment, I handled it myself. When you had that medical emergency and couldn't work for a month, I used my own savings. Blair leaned back in her chair. Do you see the pattern here? My phone buzzed with another text from Mom. Your father wants to talk to you. Then Dad. Sophia, please call me. Let's discuss this rationally. Then Carter. Way to eavesdrop and cause drama. Real mature. He's calling me immature, I said, showing Blair the message. The 25-year-old who lives in his parents' basement is calling you immature. Another text from Carter. Hope you're happy. Mum's crying because of your tantrum. A tantrum, I repeated, discovering that my family is planning to steal my money is a tantrum. Blair grabbed my phone and typed back, maybe she should cry, she should be ashamed. Blair, don't. But she'd already hit send. Carter's response was immediate. Who is this? Blair typed. Someone who actually cares about Sophia. Give me my phone back, I said, but I wasn't really trying to stop her. Tell your parents they're disgusting, Blair typed. Sophia has been supporting this family for years while you've been playing video games in the basement. Blair? What? It's true, she handed me back the phone. Sophia, you need to stop protecting these people. They're not protecting you. My phone started ringing. Mum again. This time, I answered. Sophia, who was that texting Carter? What you're doing is completely inappropriate. What I'm doing? Mum, you're planning to give away my money without telling me. It's not your money, it's family money, and we weren't giving it away, we were making a family decision. A family decision that I wasn't included in. Because we knew you'd react exactly like this. You always make everything about yourself. I looked at Blair, who was making slashing motions across her throat. I'm hanging up now, I said. Sophia, don't you dare. I ended the call and turned off my phone. Good, Blair said. Now, what are you going to do about the money? I stared at the account documents spread across the table. $50,000, 10 years of sacrifice, and they were going to give it all away to buy Carter a car while I slept on couches. I'm going to the bank tomorrow, I said quietly. To do what? I met her eyes. To withdraw my money. I barely slept that night. By 8 a.m. I was dressed and ready, the account documents in a folder under my arm. You sure about this? Blair asked, handing me a cup of coffee. They were going to do it next week anyway. At least this way, the money goes to an actual emergency. And you're really going to take all of it? I paused at her door. I put in $50,000. They put in maybe $3. I'm taking what's mine. The bank was a 10-minute drive from Blair's apartment. I'd been there dozens of times over the years, making deposits, checking balances. The teller, Maria, recognized me immediately. Sophia, how are you? Here to make another deposit to the family fund. Actually, I need to make a withdrawal today, a large one. Maria's smile faltered slightly. Oh, okay. How much are we talking about? All of it. All of it? She pulled up the account on her screen. That's $53,000. I know. Can I ask what this is for? We usually recommend keeping emergency funds intact unless... It's for an emergency, I said firmly. My apartment flooded. I need temporary housing and money for repairs. Maria nodded slowly. I'll need to see some ID and verify your signature. Since you're the primary account holder, you have full withdrawal rights, but with an amount this large, I need to follow protocol." My hands were shaking as I handed over my driver's license. Maria compared it to the signature card, then had me sign a withdrawal slip. "Would you like this as a cashier's check or transferred to your personal account?" "Transfer to my personal account, please." "This will take a few minutes to process. Can I get you some water while you wait?" I sat in the uncomfortable chair by Maria's desk, watching her type and click through screens. Other customers came and went. A woman deposited her paycheck. A man opened a new savings account. Normal banking business while I dismantled my family's financial future. "Okay," Maria said finally, "the transfer is complete. Your personal account now shows a balance of $53,412. "Thank you. Sophia, can I ask you something? Off the record?" I looked up at her. "Sure. In all the years you've been coming here, you've been the only one making deposits to that account. Your parents have never once come in to add money. Are you sure they're okay with this withdrawal?" I thought about Carter's smirk, about Mum's voice saying he deserves this chance, about Dad's weak protests that were immediately shut down. "They'll be fine," I said. Back in my car, I sat for a moment staring at my phone. 17 missed calls from Mum, 12 from Dad, 8 from Carter, 23 unread text messages. I drove to an office supply store and bought a small notebook and a pack of pens. Then I went to a coffee shop and spent 2 hours creating a detailed ledger of every deposit I'd made over the past 10 years. Date, amount, source, everything meticulously documented. At the bottom I wrote, "Total contributed by Sophia, $50,147. Total contributed by parents, $2,565. Percentage of fund belonging to Sophia, 95.2%. Then I wrote a note on a separate piece of paper, "For emergencies only sake." I drove back to the bank and asked Maria if I could access the safe deposit box associated with the account. "Of course, you're listed as an authorized user." Inside the small metal box were the original account documents and a few savings bonds my grandmother had left us years ago. I placed my ledger and note inside, then locked it back up. "All set?" Maria asked. "All set." My phone started ringing as I walked to my car. "Mum, Sophia, where are you? We need to talk immediately." "I'm running errands. What's up?" "Don't play dumb with me. The bank called. They said there was unusual activity on the family account." "Unusual how?" "Sophia Marie, don't you dare lie to me. Did you withdraw money from that account?" I got in my car and started the engine. "I had an emergency, remember? You said I should handle it myself." "How much did you take?" "I took what I needed." "How much, Sophia?" "All of it." The silence on the other end was deafening. "You took all of it?" Her voice was barely a whisper. $53,000, which, according to my calculations, was about $50,000 more than you contributed. "You can't do this. That money belongs to the family." "No, Mom. That money belonged to me. I earned it, I saved it, I deposited it, and now I'm using it for exactly what it was intended for, an emergency." "This is theft, Sophia. I'm calling the police." "Go ahead. I'm the primary account holder. I have every legal right to that money." "Your father and I will never forgive you for this." "That's fine. I'll never forgive you for planning to give my money to Carter for a car while I was homeless." "We weren't—" "I heard you, Mum. I heard every word." I hung up and immediately called Blair. "It's done," I said when she answered. "How do you feel?" I sat in the bank parking lot, watching normal people go about their normal lives, and tried to identify the emotion churning in my stomach. "Terrified," I said finally, "and free." Within an hour, my phone was exploding. I'd turned it back on to call Blair, and the notifications were relentless. "Dad, Sophia, please call me. We need to fix this. Carter. What the fuck is wrong with you? Mum. You've destroyed this family. Carter again. I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. Then a call from a number I didn't recognise. Hello? Sophia, it's your Aunt Desiree. Your mother called me crying. What's going on? I pulled over to the side of the road. Did she tell you about the emergency fund? She said you stole money from the family account. Did she tell you they were planning to give it all to Carter for a car? Silence. Desiree? She mentioned something about helping Carter get back on his feet. While I'm homeless because my apartment flooded. They told me it wasn't a real emergency. Oh, honey, Desiree's voice softened. I had no idea about your apartment. Of course you didn't, because they don't care about my problems, only Carter's wants. Sophia, I think there's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. I heard them planning it. Mum said Carter deserved the money and I could handle my own problems because I'm so capable. Another long pause. I'm sorry, Desiree said quietly. That's not right. After I hung up, I drove to an extended stay hotel and booked a room for 2 weeks. It wasn't cheap, but I could afford it now. I was unpacking my few belongings when Blair called. How are you holding up? I'm in a hotel room that costs more per night than my old rent, but at least I have a roof over my head. Any word from your family? They're calling me a thief. Carter sent me about 15 texts, calling me every name in the book. What did he say exactly? I scrolled through the messages. Let's see. Selfish bitch, family destroyer, psycho, and my personal favourite, I hope you die alone. Jesus, screenshot those. Why? Just do it. Trust me. I was taking screenshots when another call came in. Dad. Sophia, please. Your mother is beside herself. Good. Maybe now she knows how I felt when she dismissed my emergency. That's not what happened. We were trying to be fair to everyone. Fair? Dad, I contributed $50,000 to that fund. $50,000. And when I needed it, you said it wasn't a real emergency. We didn't say that. Yes, you did. Mum's exact words were, I'm not sure this qualifies as a real emergency. Then I heard her planning to give it all to Carter for a car. It wasn't all for a car. It was to help him get established, find a job. He's 25 years old. When I was 25, I was supporting myself and contributing to your precious family fund. Sophia, you have to understand, Carter needs more help than you do. Because you've never made him help himself. You've enabled him his entire life, and now you want to reward him with my money. It's not your money, it's family money. Bullshit, Dad. I have the receipts. Literally, I documented every single deposit I made over 10 years. You can't just take money that doesn't belong to you. It does belong to me. I'm the primary account holder. I put in 95% of that money, and I took it for an actual emergency, not to buy your golden boy a shiny new toy. Sophia! I hung up. 20 minutes later, Carter was at my hotel room door, pounding on it. Open up, Sophia, we need to talk. I looked through the peephole. His face was red, his hair dishevelled. Go away, Carter. Open the fucking door. No, you're clearly upset and I don't feel safe. Safe? I'm your brother. My brother, who just sent me texts saying he hopes I die alone. I was angry. You stole my money. Your money? I laughed. Carter, you've never contributed a single dollar to that fund. It was meant for me. Mum and Dad promised. There it was. The truth. They promised you my money. It's family money. How much of your own money did you put in that account, Carter? Silence. How much? That's not the point. It's exactly the point. I put in $50,000 of my own money and you put in zero, but somehow it's yours. Mum and Dad said a lot of things. They also said it was for emergencies, but when I had an emergency, suddenly it wasn't available. Your apartment flooding isn't the same as what? As you wanting a new car? You're right, it's not the same. One is an actual emergency and the other is a spoiled brat wanting a toy. Fuck you, Sophia. No, fuck you, Carter, and fuck Mum and Dad for choosing you over me for the 1,000th time. I heard him kick the door, then stomp away. My phone buzzed with a text from Blair. Check Carter's Instagram. I opened the app and went to his profile. His most recent post from 3 days ago was a picture of a red sports car with the caption, "Soon, dear and blessed be family, love, she new whip." He'd already been bragging about the car he was going to buy with my money. I screenshotted that too. 3 days later, there was a knock on my hotel room door at 7 a.m. I looked through the peephole and saw both my parents standing in the hallway looking haggard. "Sophia, we know you're in there," Mum called. "We need to talk." I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "What do you want?" "We want to resolve this," Dad said. "As a family." "There's nothing to resolve. I took my money for my emergency. End of story." Mum's eyes were red and puffy. "Sophia, please, can we come in? We've been up all night trying to figure out how to fix this." Against my better judgment, I stepped aside and let them enter. They sat on the small couch while I remained standing by the door. "We owe you an apology," Dad began. "Do you?" "Yes," Mum said quickly. "We handled this poorly. We should have discussed Carter's situation with you first." "Carter's situation? You mean his desire for a new car?" "It's more than that," Mum insisted. "He's been struggling to find work, and we thought having reliable transportation would help. He has a car. It's 5 years old, but it runs fine." "It's not about the car specifically," Dad said. "It's about giving him the confidence to—" "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop. You're still doing it. You're still making excuses for him." "We're not making excuses," Mum said. "We're trying to help our son." "What about your daughter? What about helping me?" "You don't need help the way Carter does," Mum replied. "You're successful, independent—" "I was homeless 3 days ago." "You were staying with a friend because you refused to help me. You told me my emergency wasn't real." Dad shifted uncomfortably. "We may have been too hasty in that assessment." "Too hasty?" I stared at him. "Dad, I called you crying because my apartment was destroyed and you hung up on me twice." "We were overwhelmed," Mum said. "We didn't handle it well." "You were planning to give $50,000 to Carter for a car while I was sleeping on my friend's couch. How exactly should I have handled that?" "You should have talked to us," Mum said, her voice getting sharper. "Not stolen the money like a common thief." "There it is," I said. "The real Mom. I was wondering when she'd show up." "Sophia, that's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair. Let's talk about fair." I pulled out my phone and showed them Carter's Instagram post. "He was already bragging about the car you were going to buy him with my money." Dad's face went pale. "We didn't know he posted that." "Of course you didn't, because you don't pay attention to anything he does wrong, only what I do wrong." "That's not true," Mum protested. "Isn't it? When's the last time you criticised Carter for anything? When's the last time you told him to handle his own problems?" "We're trying to help him become independent." "By giving him everything he wants. That's not independence, that's enabling." "We've made mistakes with Carter," Dad admitted, "but that doesn't justify what you did." "What I did was take my own money for my own emergency, the money I earned, saved and deposited for 10 years while Carter contributed nothing. It was family money." "No!" I shouted, finally losing my composure. "It was my money. I worked 60-hour weeks to save that money. I skipped vacations, drove a crappy car, lived in a tiny apartment, all so I could contribute to that fund, and when I finally needed it, you said no." Mum started crying. "We never meant for you to feel—" "Feel what? Worthless, unimportant, like my needs don't matter? You matter to us, Dad said quietly. Do I? Because for my entire life, I've watched you give Carter everything while expecting me to earn scraps. He gets praise for getting a C. I get criticised for getting a B+. He gets money for his failed business ideas. I get told to be more responsible. He gets to live in your basement rent-free. I get lectures about independence. We've always been proud of you, Mum said through her tears. Proud of me for what? For being the responsible one, for cleaning up everyone else's messes, for never asking for help. Yes, she whispered. Well, I'm done being responsible for everyone else. I'm done being the family ATM. I'm done pretending that Carter's wants are more important than my needs. Dad cleared his throat. What would it take for you to give the money back? I stared at him. Are you serious right now? We could work out a payment plan. Dad, I'm not giving the money back. It's mine. I earned it, I saved it, and I'm using it for exactly what it was intended for. But Carter is a grown man. If he wants a car, he can get a job and buy one himself. Mum stood up abruptly. Fine, keep the money, but don't expect us to welcome you back into this family with open arms. I don't, I said simply. I don't expect anything from you anymore. They left without another word. An hour later, my phone rang. Desiree. I just got off the phone with your mother, she said. She told me about your conversation. I'm sure she did. Sophia, I need to tell you something. Last month at the wedding, your mother was bragging to me about how they were going to surprise Carter with money for a car. She said it was going to be at least $50,000. She was bragging about it. She said Carter deserved it after everything he'd been through. I asked her where the money was coming from, and she said the family emergency fund. When I asked if you knew, she said it would be a surprise for everyone. I closed my eyes. Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry, honey. What they did wasn't right. After I hung up, I sat on the hotel bed and looked around the small room. It wasn't home, but it was mine. Paid for with my own money, for my own emergency. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. 2 weeks after my parents' visit, I was back in my repaired apartment, arranging furniture that I'd bought with my own money. The floors were better than before, the walls were freshly painted, and everything smelled like new beginnings instead of mould. Blair was helping me hang pictures when my phone rang. Desiree. Sophia, I wanted to check on you. How are you settling back in? Good, really good, actually. The apartment looks better than it did before the flood. I'm glad to hear that. Listen, there's something else I need to tell you. Your mother called me yesterday. I set down the hammer I was holding. What did she want? She wanted me to talk to you about giving the money back. She said the family is falling apart without it. The family is falling apart because they chose Carter over me, not because of the money. That's what I told her. I also told her that what they did was wrong, and that you had every right to take your own money. How did she respond to that? She hung up on me. We haven't spoken since. Blair looked up from the picture she was hanging. Your aunt sounds like the only sane person in your family. She is, I said into the phone. Desiree, thank you for standing up for me. You don't need to thank me for telling the truth, honey. After I hung up, Blair and I finished decorating in comfortable silence. My new couch was bigger than my old one, and I'd bought a dining table that actually seated 4 people instead of 2. For the first time in years, I'd spent money on myself without calculating how it would affect my monthly contribution to the family fund. Around dinner time, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Carter standing in the hallway, looking cleaner and more put together than he had at the hotel. It's Carter, I told Blair. Want me to stay? Yeah, actually, I do. I opened the door but kept the chain lock engaged. What do you want? I want to talk. Can I come in? Depends. Are you going to yell at me and call me names? He looked down at his feet. No, I came to apologize. I studied his face through the crack in the door. He looked tired, maybe even a little humbled. Fine, but Blair stays. I let him in, and he sat awkwardly on the edge of my new couch while Blair and I remained standing. Nice place, he said, looking around. It looks really good. Thanks. Look, Sophia, I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I realize I was out of line. The things I said to you were horrible. They were. I was angry and disappointed, but that's not an excuse. I shouldn't have called you those names or said I hoped you'd die alone. No, you shouldn't have. He fidgeted with his hands. I also want you to know that I got a job, a real job, at a marketing firm downtown. Good for you. I start Monday, and I'm moving out of Mum and Dad's house. I found a studio apartment I can afford. Blair and I exchanged glances. What changed? I asked. Honestly, you taking that money was a wake-up call. I realized I've been coasting my whole life, expecting other people to solve my problems, expecting you to solve my problems. And now I'm going to solve my own problems. I don't need a new car. My old one works fine. I don't need Mum and Dad to support me. I'm 25 years old and it's time I acted like it. I sat down across from him. What about Mum and Dad? How are they handling this? Not well. They keep asking me to talk to you about giving the money back. They think if I apologize, you'll change your mind. And what do you tell them? I tell them it's not my money to ask for. It never was. He looked directly at me. Sophia, I knew that money was mostly yours. I knew you'd been contributing almost everything, and I knew it wasn't fair for me to take it. But I wanted it anyway. At least you're being honest now. I'm trying to be honest about everything, including the fact that Mum and Dad have always treated you differently than me. You were held to a higher standard, expected to be perfect, while I got away with everything. Why didn't you ever say anything before? Because it benefited me. I got the easy path while you got the hard one, and I was selfish enough to let it happen. Blair spoke up for the first time. What are you going to do about your parents? Carter sighed. I don't know. They're still convinced that Sophia is the villain in this story. They think she destroyed the family. I didn't destroy anything, I said. I just stopped letting them destroy me. I know that now, and for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. We sat in silence for a moment. Carter, I'm not giving the money back. I know, and I'm not asking you to. Good. He stood up to leave, then turned back. Sophia, I'm sorry for all of it, for taking advantage of your generosity, for letting Mum and Dad treat you like that, for being a shitty brother. Thank you for saying that. Do you think maybe someday we could have a real relationship? One where I'm not just taking from you? I looked at this man who was my brother, who was finally taking responsibility for his actions, who was finally growing up. Maybe, I said, but it's going to take time. I understand. After he left, Blair and I ordered pizza and sat on my new couch, eating off my new coffee table. How do you feel? She asked. I looked around my apartment, my space, paid for with my money, furnished with my choices. I thought about the emergency fund, now empty, and how I'd used it for exactly what it was meant for, my emergency. I feel like myself again, I said. For the first time in years, I feel like myself. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I opened it. This is Carter's new number. Thank you for not giving up on me completely. I'm going to prove I can be better. I showed Blair the message. Are you going to respond? I thought about it, then typed back, Good luck with the new job. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a start. Outside my window, the sun was setting over the city. Tomorrow I would go to work, come home to my own apartment, and not send a single dollar to anyone else's emergency fund. I had finally learned the difference between being responsible and being taken advantage of, and I was never going back.